play it any louder, then it's getting shut down.
My name is Waffles, and I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator, and this is the last 24 hours in the news. Today is December 30th, 2025. It is 12:36 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I better get this done quickly today. I made a big pot of chili, and I am coping with my hypertension, my stress levels, by listening to relaxing piano music. Here are the top U.S. news highlights for the past 24 hours. Prosecution of James Comey moves forward. A new federal criminal case titled United States versus James B. Comey Jr. has been filed in the Eastern District of Virginia, charging former FBI Director James Comey with false statements to Congress and obstruction of a congressional proceeding tied to his 2020 testimony on Russia-Trump campaign investigations. The indictment came shortly before the statute of limitations expired and followed the replacement of the U.S. attorney who had opposed bringing charges. So James Comey is being punished for investigating Donald Trump for colluding with Russians. That's what that looks like to me. FBI strengthens fraud investigations in Minnesota. The FBI deployed additional agents and resources to Minnesota to expand a large federal fraud probe involving COVID-era and other federal aid programs. The effort has already produced tens of indictments and convictions, and some defendants are being referred to for potential deportation, part of heightened enforcement amplified by political rhetoric from Donald Trump about fraud in the state. They're targeting Somalians. In specific, they're pulling racist rhetoric into this thing that they're doing in Minnesota, saying that they're chasing people for fraud. And at the same time, Benjamin Netanyahu has been, antagonizing the people of Somalia by acknowledging the sovereignty of Somaliland, which sounds like a very sarcastic name, and probably is not any legitimate collection group of people. I would assume, based on the name of that, Donald Trump is targeting Somalians, claiming that they're going after FBI fraud cases, which is just very bizarre. It's a load of horseshit is what it is. He is targeting and engaging in racist attacks towards the Somali population in the United States, while at the same time Benjamin Netanyahu is mocking the people of Somalia and in a way kind of threatening their sovereignty. And Donald Trump is cheering him on publicly. This has been happening. Supreme Court limits National Guard deployment. While not a new ruling today, the U.S. Supreme Court recently refused to allow President Trump to deploy National Guard troops to the Chicago area, upholding a lower court's block of the maneuver as parts of legal battles over using military forces domestically. National Guard patrols authorized for New Orleans, New Year's in response to last year's deadly Bourbon Street vehicle ramming attack. About 350 National Guard troops will patrol New Orleans over New Year's, assisting local police with visibility, road closures, and public safety. Officials characterize this as a protective security deployment tied to a past mass attack. Also, the eye drops, I have a medical condition, and that's why I'm taking them. That's what that's for. FBI deploys more agents in Minnesota fraud case. Beyond the legal context above, the FBI's expanded presence in Minnesota underlines a federal enforcement push that has been politically charged and criticized by civil rights advocates for targeting immigrant communities. Experts have warned analysts that political violence and U.S. domestic violence and U.S. domestic extremism remain volatile, particularly when combined with high-profile political disputes. While no immediate new extremist events were reported today, the broader risk landscape continues to be monitored closely. Winter fuel delivery waivers extended. Recent movement. Federal transport regulators have extended emergency waivers on trucker driving time limits for heating fuels to January 15th due to severe winter storms and outages that threaten propane supply chains. Though current news summaries included this within the past few days, it remains a pressing infrastructure issue affecting heating fuel deliveries in multiple states. National Guard support for public safety in New Orleans. Beyond civil risk, the New Orleans Guard patrols also represent infrastructure and public safety resource allocation linked to major event security planning. Jobless claims and labor trends continue to influence health and welfare policy discussions. Recent data from the week ended December 20th showed initial jobless claims fell to 214,000, but continued claims remain elevated, pointing to lingering labor market softness that affects financial and health security for many households, a continued story in U.S. economic well-being discourse. Alleged U.S. strike on Venezuelan drug facility. President Trump announced that the U.S. carried out a strike on alleged drug boat loading facility in Venezuela, part of a larger campaign against narcotics trafficking, supposedly. The Venezuelan government has not confirmed the incident, and no independent verification has emerged. It's just Trump's word, claiming that these people are drug dealers. Congressmen and Pentagon officials have faced scrutiny over the legality and scope of such operations. This reflects an assertive foreign policy posture with diplomatic risk. Trump meets with Netanyahu, fed criticism. Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago, reaffirming support and warning Hamas of consequences for renewed attacks, while also publicly criticizing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and threatening legal action over monetary policy, an unusual mix of foreign and economic policy messaging. I think it's kind of disrespectful of the United States that he's having all these meetings at Mar-a-Lago. He just tore down the White House and he's holding government meetings at his own residence. U.S. troop actions abroad continue to generate debate. The strike claimed in Venezuela, continued military pressure against narcotics trafficking reflect broader U.S. engagement overseas. It reflects Donald Trump attacking a foreign country when nobody told him to and there's no reason for it. And it makes him likely to be, considered a war criminal. I got andouille sausage on sale and I put it in the chili. It works. I feel like the flavor of the meat kind of cooked out of my sausage and went more into the chili. Like the chili has a really good taste. But what would you call it? The boldness of the sausage is kind of not so much there with it being cooked into a chili, and the sausage itself tastes mellowed out, but I do think it kind of flavored my chili a little bit. It's interesting. Trump's announcement of a supposed U.S. strike on a Venezuelan drug facility without confirmation from the Pentagon, CIA, or Venezuelan authorities stands out as controversial, potentially unverified claim with diplomatic risk. Threat against Federal Reserve Chair. Trump publicly calling Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell a fool and threatening legal action over monetary policy is an unusual and confrontational move by a sitting president toward an independent institution. This raises concerns over institutional norms. You don't say. Texas law mandating local sheriff cooperation with ICE goes into effect. A new Texas law, Senate Bill 8, will soon require all county sheriffs that operate jails to enter into 287G agreements with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, effectively binding local law enforcement to federal immigration enforcement. Advocates warn this could erode trust in communities and blur lines between local policing and federal immigration action. DOJ investigates corporate DEI programs using fraud law. The Trump DOJ has launched investigations into major corporations, e.g. Google and Verizon, over their diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs. Using the False Claims Act, typically a fraud enforcement tool, companies fear federal funding repercussions and potential whistleblower claims. This is a novel use of federal enforcement authority, and this could also chill corporate inclusion programs with broader social and legal fallout. So I went to college for business. And I just want to say, like, if you want to make money, having a diverse workforce is how you make money. Because if you have a bunch of idiots that all think the same, they're not going to be able to fix a problem so well. Like, when you have all that dynamic thinking from different perspectives, be it gender or ethnic background or different backgrounds of people that think differently, if there's a problem, the more diverse group is more likely to be able to solve it. This is what makes businesses that support DEI more profitable. Other than that, I will continue to come out here and talk smack about the men in the construction industry, because I'm a woman that has spent 10 years working in construction, dealing with men who want to cry about there being a woman on the job when I'm just trying to fucking earn my paycheck. This, to me, seems like white supremacists' efforts being made inside of our government. It really does. There's no reason for the president to really be attacking DEI, in my opinion. I just don't understand it. And with all of the white supremacists and racist rhetoric that I've been hearing, I mean, I would assume that's the goal. And so then what I want to say is that, like, when it comes to running a business, like, the goal, like, good business is a business that serves a duty to society. It provides a need to society. It meets a need that people have. It provides value to the people, things that they need or want. It is supposed to serve setting the precedent for women to then start moving into men's spaces. And that's why I think that one's funny. A specific civil liberties dispute that could have implications for campus policy and Title IX enforcement. What is Title IX? Title IX. Okay, that's something that applies to the educational system, it looks like. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any education program or activity receiving federal funding. Alright, well, the women's locker rooms need to be, like, women only. I think this whole thing that we have going on with the trans people or whatever, like, there's been trans people, there's been gay people throughout the whole of human history. So, the only thing that MAGA's fighting is human nature, but at the same time, like, I personally, like, there's been times when men, like, would come into the women's bathroom and I'm, like, ready to shank a fool while I'm taking a shit. I mean, single-person bathrooms or family bathrooms, there's an option that I think would meet the needs of society. It provides some privacy. You don't need to be in a stalled bathroom. And I think that all places should be required to maybe have unisex bathrooms that are just like the family bathroom, and then it doesn't have to be an issue. And we can get over it. I think that privacy is something that people are deserving of, and like, not to have to feel uncomfortable in the bathroom. Regardless of who you are. But I also don't think letting men just go up in the women's bathroom is a safe thing. And I think that if people are like claiming, like, it's just hypothetically speaking, if things are, you know, it just, if as a social norm, men going into the women's bathroom, to me, it could create the gateway for a criminal, serial criminal or whatever to start taking advantage of those opportunities due to it being a social norm and engage in harmful acts. And women are subjected to a significant amount of violence. You know, we could just do like family bathrooms. And if you want stalls, if it's more convenient, you know, like, update the building code for people to have privacy. And if it's a school, let them have a freaking family bathrooms. Like, everywhere that there's 2 stalls, bathrooms, let there be a private bathroom. I don't know. Alright, I looked up this term, the WOMXN. It is a respelling of the word woman or woman, used in feminist and queer circles to create an inclusive term that moves beyond patriarchal language. Whatever, you know, I mean, people need people they can relate to. That's how MAGA wound up existing. People were so fucking lonely that they clung to the one thing that made them feel like they belong, and it's like, you're not looking at who's driving the fucking steering wheel, you know, who's driving the bus. So, I'm all for community, but I think, like people, it's a human need. People will have negative health consequences if they're living their lives in isolation until, you know, their health will go downhill. This has been studied. People are more likely to die earlier if they're alone and in isolation and shit. So, I'm not against people finding a place that they can belong. What I do care about, and my principles and my way of being, is you don't harm people that are innocent. That, like, if somebody's just going about their daily life, you don't harm them. That's not okay. You shouldn't even bother somebody else if they're doing no harm. And the only time that you should be speaking up is when somebody is doing harm. The gay community, and this includes high schoolers and stuff, has been subjected to violent attacks. These people have a reason to be trying to protect themselves like anybody else would. So while I am personally, I don't swing that way, I understand it, and I can respect that. And I think it's sad that there's people that are out here that will, freak out just because somebody's gay to the extent where they will physically harm them. That's just fucked up, dude. Like if somebody's gay, just let them be gay. You go be gay. Be happy. Whatever the fuck. Don't make it my business. I don't care. You do you. They're walking among us. They have always been among us. I don't understand this whole, well, I do, but it's some dumb monkey brain shit to be out here othering people to make yourself feel like you belong. That is low IQ behavior. That is a reflection that you have nothing going for yourself of value that you provide to society. When it comes to these hate groups, these are low value individuals who are not willing to work on themselves. They're not willing to provide anything worthwhile, and that is why they have to come up and be like, we look the same, and that's why those people are the enemy, because those people are different than us. And that could be so easily done in so many different ways. People look at those yellow shoes people, well, we're not like them because we got orange shoes. Choose a color nobody's claimed yet. Fuck those yellow shoes people. Okay. So you're playing on a really low bar psychological aspect of the human being, manipulating people to try and get yourself into the in-group so you can feel like you belong, because you are so low value that you have nothing to provide. So you have to make these low blows to even be able to socialize. That's what I see when I see people that are acting like that. Unsophisticated. Nothing to offer. You hear that kind of language coming out of somebody's mouth, you get the fuck away from them, because they're gonna try to get shit off you. They're up to no good. They have nothing to offer. Why are they not working on themselves? Why are they talking shit about other people? Are they gonna talk shit about you? Are they gonna stab you in the back? That is the kind of person that they are. Those kinds of people should be given a reason to learn and grow and become better people. And if they choose not to do that and they're ostracized by society, that is their problem. Do better. When I see that kind of behavior in the workplace, I'm like, oh, look at this dumb motherfucker. He's going to try to target somebody's job. He's going to start some shit. That's a low-value person. House Democrats to hold a special hearing on January 6th violence. House Democrats, I had to make sure that was recent, because I had something come up yesterday that was the same thing, and I didn't see nothing in the news. House Democrats announced a special hearing to mark the 5-year anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riot, focusing on ongoing threats to election integrity, like Donald Trump and his Russian buddies, and pushing back against narratives minimizing the attack. Under the radar political developments, while not breaking news, the timing and framing amid broader contestation over the 2020 election narratives could reignite legislative scrutiny and media focus. Public surveillance of law enforcement grows in reaction to federal enforcement tactics. An analysis published today highlights how local citizens increasingly record and monitor law enforcement actions, especially immigration enforcement operations, flipping traditional surveillance dynamics and creating a complex accountability environment. This grassroots surveillance trend is a direct reaction to enforcement practices and has implications for civil liberties and public safety. Long-term domestic terror policy NSPM 7 continues to frame enforcement. A national security presidential memorandum NSPM 7 designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization and expanding the counterterrorism framework remains active and continues to inform enforcement priorities against political violence. Under the radar policy reality, this directive shapes how agencies address political violence and protest movements, often without front-page headlines. ProPublica-driven civil rights advocacy cites federal detention abuses. Although published earlier, a new advocacy push from civil rights and faith leaders cites ProPublica investigation showing U.S. citizens, including children, were wrongfully detained by immigration agents, urging congressional action for oversight and accountability. Groups are amplifying this data in current advocacy, which could influence legislative hearings and enforcement oversight in early 2026. Reddit summary: U.S. offers Ukraine long-term security guarantees. A U.S. proposal for a 15-year security guarantee to Ukraine surfaced in a user-curated summary based on today's diplomatic news, reflecting ongoing foreign policy strategy being discussed publicly between Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. While widely reported internationally, this specific proposal detail is now circulating in domestic commentary. Yeah, Donald Trump's trying to get Zelensky to give Ukraine to Putin. Winter storm continues impacting U.S. travel and public safety. A severe winter storm continues to disrupt travel across major U.S. regions, Northeast and Midwest, leading to thousands of flight cancellations and hazardous conditions, testing infrastructure and prompting local emergency responses. This ongoing weather disruption impacts consumer safety, transportation infrastructure, emergency services, and economic activity as the year closes. Department of Education Closure Initiative. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday directing the Secretary of Education to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education. The order mandates that any remaining federal funds must not support programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion or gender ideology. Birthright citizenship legal battle. The Supreme Court announced it will hear a major challenge in early 2026 regarding the administration's executive order attempting to end birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to non-citizen parents. NGO funding crackdown. A new memorandum directs federal agencies to stop funding any non-governmental organizations, NGOs, that undermine national interest, requiring a comprehensive review of all current grants to ensure they align with America First priorities. So let's break this down, okay? An NGO, a non-governmental organization, is typically like a non-profit. So those would be groups like the ACLU or Politico, etc. There are groups that are assembled, non-profits typically, that their purpose is to hold the government accountable. This says that they want to defund any that undermine national interest. Now, when we speak about national interest, is it Trump's interest or national interest that we're referring to here? Because national interest would be fixing the economy, not terrorizing the people, not stealing all of our money, the opposite of all the things that Donald Trump is doing. Not starting wars with random ass countries because he fucking feels like it after looting us. The national interest would be, and when I talk about national interest, I mean that there is a nation of people. And what would be in the interest of the nation of people, well, the people, their interest, would be to make sure that they're fed, clothed, housed, have access to medical care, and can easily get a job. And that things in the country are stable enough that everybody in the country can live their lives without even thinking about what the president is doing. That is the national interest, national stability, national security. So then, by definition of the term, if Donald Trump continues to do the things that I just named, like terrorizing the people, stealing from them, destroying the economy, and trying to engage in expansionism with a foreign adversary, that is not in the national interest. So by definition, let us continue. It says it requires a comprehensive review of all grants to ensure they align with America First priorities. America First. A Ku Klux Klan token, often referred to as a coin, exists, which bears the slogan, America First. The KKK used the America First slogan as early as the 1920s during marches and in their publications to promote their xenophobic and nativist ideology. I could just go on a tangent here. White supremacy is stupid. White supremacy and privilege, aristocracy. Okay, aristocracy is when all the rich people are in charge. Okay, when you have somebody who's got so much fucking money as like Elon Musk, that is somebody that is completely out of touch with reality. They got no idea what's fucking going on around them, and you could try to tell them, and if they're thick-headed, like, they ain't gonna understand. That's why we don't want we don't just give somebody the merits because they're rich. Because there's an incredibly likely chance that they may be very out of touch with the basic things that happen in this world. Especially with the amount of criminal activity we're seeing right now. In regards to, like, financial crimes. So white supremacy, there's nothing beautiful about that. And I honestly, personally, do not believe that, like, anybody's children, regardless of their race, like, even little white kids, should have to be in a situation where they have to witness that in the place that they live, that they call their home, that there is things happening like people hanging from trees. It's very grotesque. And I think as a society, we should do better than that. Other than that, as I previously explained, DEI actually increases, it increases GDP. It improves the economy. You want to improve the economy, bring back DEI. I hate to say that, but I mean, that's literally, quite literally how it works. And I explained why. So then, this statement, you know, this America First agenda, the KKK's agenda, or whatever, I guess, that we're dealing with, does not align with national interest. So then I would say, if there's going to be a comprehensive review of all current grants to ensure they align with the America First priorities, that is not in the national interest. So if this isn't a piece of legislation and both of these things are in that legislation needs reworded. Because the America First, the KKK agenda does not align with the national interest. This is not 1776, okay? There's not a bunch of dumb monkeys that don't know what a fucking light bulb is yet coming off of boats. The United States population is the biggest it's ever been. It's 350 million people. What was the U.S. population in 1776? 2.5 million people. Okay, so let's get a calculator. So the United States current population is 140 times as big as it was in 1776. So if these motherfuckers think they're just gonna come out here and try to like seize everything and good luck. I don't think that the people should allow that, and people need to pay better attention and know who to boycott and be careful with their money and their stock investments. Quit giving all your fucking money to these damn financial managers, be it Berkshire Hathaway or BlackRock. These are the people that are destroying our system of law, our environment. They're harming workers. These are all people who are not serving a society with appropriate services. If you're doing harm to people, you're not doing a good job. Okay? And when we get white privilege, when people are told that they're so great just because of the color of their skin and so they don't have to try in life, and you wind up with some lazy fucking cunt that's just an absolute moron as a result, that doesn't know what it's like to put any effort into anything, and when it comes to needing to do work on the job site, they're gonna lean on a shovel all fucking day. That's just ridiculous to me. White supremacy does not align with the national interest. Okay? If you want good GDP, you want housing, all the things these people are saying that they want right now, but first of all, they're not willing to divest. They're not willing to put the effort in their own personal lives to try and get things to change. Not enough. I argue that this statement somehow implying that the America First is in the national interest is just contradictory and therefore impossible to enforce. How is having a poorly running economy with a bunch of people hurting each other, like with a chemical spill from 3M that caused a lot of families to lose their children? There is reasons why we need environmental protections. And anybody who has the audacity to think that they can hurt, first of all, any other person versus, also including like groups of people or whole populations, there is something wrong with that individual, okay? That is not normal behavior. And it's not something that we should encourage or want in our society. Gender dysphoria care ban. We're just going to move on now. I'm going to get off of that tangent. Gender dysphoria care ban. A proposed federal rule was released today that would prohibit any hospital receiving Medicare or Medicaid funding from providing gender-affirming care to transgender youth. HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. issued a concurrent declaration stating such treatments are not safe or effective. Yeah, quit trying to, like, say that women need to be this way and men need to be that way and making everybody miserable, because sometimes, like, when people give you Barbies, you're just like, what the fuck do I do with this thing, and make a necklace out of Barbie heads, you know? I mean, I think that trying to enforce specific roles on the population is not going too well, because there's a thing called human nature and free will. And I just want to say, as somebody who's had, like, multiple near-death experiences, nobody is going to dictate to me how to live my life. I'm going to be very fervent in making sure that I defend my personal rights, because you know what? I'm on this earth one fucking time. And while religion is a great thing that people use to manipulate, apparently in this situation Donald Trump is abusing, they're not Christian, they're claiming that they care so much about the Christian religion, and they're just doing everything to act like Satan. Okay, if you are religious, if you're like Christian or whatever, doesn't Satan try to, like, pretend to be a good guy or whatever the fuck and confuse you? And, like, they're liars and thieves, deceptive behaviors. I hate all of this shit, dude. I miss normal life when I didn't give a fuck what the president was doing. I'm sitting here now in utter disbelief at what I'm witnessing and the failure of our entire governmental body to protect the sovereignty of the United States is what this looks like, because this man is on a rampage, like dismantling the entire system of governance, tearing down the White House, stealing all of our money and stockpiling weapons. That is what that tariff money is being used for. The administration, D.C., we're going to move on. D.C. Liberation Day deployment under the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. The president has bypassed local authorities to take control of the D.C. police and maintain mobilization of over 2,000 National Guard troops in the capital. The administration cited a rescue mission from crime following an incident involving a Department of Government Efficiency DOJ staffer. Fuck DOJ. National Guard expansion to other cities. Reports indicate the administration is considering extending federal military deployments to Chicago, Baltimore, Memphis, and New Orleans, despite a recent federal judge's ruling that the summer deployment of National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles was illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act. Threats against the Federal Reserve. During a press conference today, President Trump attacked Fed Chair Jerome Powell, calling him a fool and threatening to file a lawsuit for gross incompetence, while suggesting he intends to find a way to fire him. You cannot just turn the U.S. economy off and on and flip the on and off switch and get everybody not knowing what the fuck is going on, and supply, like businesses not knowing where to get supply from and all that shit, using these fucking tariffs, and expect people not to tell you to fuck off. And I mean, like, all of America. So, you know, you can threaten Jerome Powell all you fucking want and act like a stupid cunt. But if anybody's exhibiting gross incompetence, it's this weird-ass old man that wears fucking diapers and paints himself orange. That's running around shitting himself and drooling on himself in front of cameras during important public meetings. Policy shifts in institutional power. H-1B entry fee, a newly active proclamation, now reflects the entry of H-1B specialty workers unless their employer pays a $100,000 fee per petition. The administration claims this will prioritize high-paid foreign workers and protect American wages. 10-to-1 deregulation. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has begun implementing the 10-to-1 initiative, which requires federal agencies to eliminate 10 existing regulations for every new one created. That's fucking ridiculous. That makes no sense. Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about in regards to aristocracy and putting people who have and I even made a specific example of Elon Musk, and here he is, here's his fucking crew of people. Why? We're gonna get rid of 10 laws in order to create a new one? That makes zero sense. Like, there is no logical reasoning behind that. To just simply dismantle the system of law in order to create one initiative. That makes no fucking sense. I mean, it makes no fucking sense. Executive departments are currently prohibited from filing any vacant civilian positions. Strategic hiring committees have been established within each agency to ensure any future hires strictly align with the president's agenda. Rural health strings attached. The administration announced a $50 billion rural health transformation program today. While it provides $10 billion annually, $12 billion of the total is tied to states adopting Make America Healthy Again by spreading measles policies, such as banning SNAP benefits for junk food, soda, and candy, and implementing the presidential fitness test in schools. Yeah, is it the fitness test where Donald Trump goes wandering into a fucking locker room full of a bunch of little adolescent females? Is that the presidential fitness test? SNAP clawback. CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz confirmed that the federal government will recalculate and potentially claw back health funds from states that fail to implement these nutritional mandates. Medicaid cuts. Analysts warn that the $1.2 trillion in budget cuts over the next decade, primarily from Medicaid, will likely cause the closure of up to 300 rural hospitals, far outweighing the new $50 billion fund. Energy standards halted using national security as a justification. The administration has delayed the implementation of mercury and air toxics standards to support domestic coal and power production. He's trying to roll us back. It makes no sense. Food and liar attacks. In a series of social media posts early this morning, the president escalated his rhetoric against the Federal Reserve Chair, referring to him as a liar and a traitor to the dollar. 6G race. A new executive order was signed to fast-track U.S. development of 6G technology to ensure the country wins the race against China by passing several existing environmental and land use reviews for tower placement. The fucker just does whatever he wants. UN funding slash. The U.S. has pledged only $2 billion for humanitarian assistance to the United Nations for 2026, a massive drop from prior years. The administration told UN agencies to adapt or die following the cuts. I just want to be clear, the difference in these cuts is it was like $17 billion and now it's only $2 billion. So there's a lot of people who have become dependent on those programs, and like I said, you don't just bring down the hammer on whatever the fuck you're doing, dude, because you're gonna piss people off. And it's gonna do harm, and if we want to get rid of programs or try to shift the economy to be more export-based, this is something I've talked about before, then those changes need to be made incrementally and not just suddenly taking what was America and turning it into this freak show of fucking dementia, delusions, bullshit. These guys have been doing cocaine and hanging out with Russians. In my opinion, that's what it looks like. It's just my opinion. Mar-a-Lago summit following a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. The president warned that Hamas will have hell to pay if it does not disarm, so he's now threatening the region. He also claimed without evidence that the U.S. struck a big facility in Venezuela last week, though the Pentagon has not confirmed any such operation. Well, I'm glad it never happened. Bad Santa commentary during the holiday weekend. The president publicly referred to a prominent female governor as a disaster in a suit and placed her on a permanent naughty list for her opposition to federalized troop deployments. Attacks on former allies. Outgoing Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene stated in a New York Times interview today that she was naive to believe the president was a man of the people, signaling a deepening rift between the administration and its original populist base. Yeah, you know, I mean, if you need to feel like you belong, you go find like some sort of club. You know, go find your local chess club. Go find the nerds that are playing magic cards. Go, you know, there's all these websites like Meet Me and whatever. Like, you could be meeting people and going out and doing fun events. And that's a way you got to figure out that you know, for these people that bought into this MAGA shit, like, you need to figure out what you can do to meet your socialization need, because as a biological driver and you just got played by somebody who knew how to manipulate that, and you do that by doing things like helping your community, working on projects that make you get a sense of achievement, there's better ways to find a sense of community. But you do have to seek it out. And not be a shitty fucking person to those around you. Supreme Court interim docket activity over the last 24 hours. Legal analysts have highlighted a series of 6-3 emergency stays from the Supreme Court that have allowed the administration to continue removing agency heads, specifically targeting Lisa Cook of the Federal Reserve Board. We got another one, and then there's Jerome Powell. He's like, you know, let me loot America. And they're like, you're fucking stupid. And he's like, I want to rob everybody. And they're like, we can see what you're doing. That's my perspective of this. Well, a lower court blocked her removal. The Supreme Court has allowed the administrative purge to proceed, pending a full merits review in 2026, which he just changed the classification of that to make it so he can just give people Fs. Nationwide, and then fire them if they've got that grade, so that's probably what he's going to do. Nationwide class action victory on bonds. Late yesterday, a federal judge in California, Sykes, issued a clarifying order rebuking the administration for ignoring previous rulings. The court reaffirmed that a nationwide class of immigrants must receive bond hearings, striking down a policy that attempted to jail thousands indefinitely without a hearing. Birthright citizenship merit briefs. Legal filings were confirmed today in Trump versus Barbara. The case challenging the executive order to end birthright citizenship. Civil rights groups filed additional briefs overnight, arguing that the order nullifies the 14th Amendment by executive fiat. New Orleans Title 32 deployment in a move mirroring the Chicago and Los Angeles standoffs. A new deployment was announced for New Orleans today, while officially under the control of Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry. The operation is being federally funded and used to implement zero-tolerance enforcement zones through the upcoming holiday season. Surveillance AI in urban centers. Overnight reports from Cal Matters detail an expansion of drone-based AI surveillance in major California cities. Everybody get reflective things and get like a reflective visor. Put some tinfoil on it, you know, because us conspiracy theorists, we need our foilies anyways, right? Wear sunglasses when you go out, or straight up flip those drones the bird. These tools are now being used to analyze the digital histories of individuals in neighborhoods targeted for enforcement raids. raising significant Fourth Amendment concerns. It almost sounds to me like, I mean, it's surveillance. Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Fuck that. People should probably figure out where that's happening at. And let the people in California know where this is taking place. Well, if it's going with the immigration raids, though, then maybe what you would need to watch for is the immigration raids. I don't know. Arrest of pardoned January 6th defendant for threats. In a bizarre legal twist, Christopher Moynihan, a J6 defendant pardoned earlier this year, was arrested in New York on the last 24 hours for making new terroristic threats against House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. This has reignited debates over the security risks posed by the administration's broad pardon policy. Kind of weird for the president to get in office and immediately just like release a bunch of prisoners upon the population. Doge contract cancellations. In its final report for the year December 29th, the Department of Government Efficiency announced that it had concealed all the fraud that Donald Trump engaged in during the pandemic while Biden was in office. No, I'm just kidding. What it says here is the Department of Government Efficiency announced it had canceled 55 federal contracts in the last 5 days. This includes a $4.5 million HHS contract for public health reporting and a $1.6 million HUD contract for digital news management, which the administration termed as taxpayer-funded propaganda. Alright, well, this concludes today's U.S. News Report. I'm gonna go now. Bye.
So the Olympics is great. And Johnny, for the others, you know, the World Cup, Johnny is the head of it. We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny. And we got the World Cup, too. And, you know, it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. You know, I got both of them. I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. And I said, you know, it's too bad. One was in 2026 and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election and now we won. So I'm going to be your president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So, Johnny, thank you for the World Cup, and everybody, thank you for the Olympics. We're going to have a great time.
Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on my videos. And also, don't forget to check out my shop where you can get this awesome Real Patriots, Punch Nazis t-shirt. America, fuck yeah! And if you go to the link tree in my bio on most platforms, it's got links to everything, all of my stuff. You can find my shop there. I'm on eBay. You can also get this cool Exterminate MAGA sticker, cause MAGA's fucking cockroaches. And fuck MAGA, abolish MAGA, fuck you MAGA.